of capacity be an inclusive process. Despite the advancements and benefits for the digital era, we are still facing significant digital divide, whether among countries or within a country. For instance, less fortunate communities and children cannot access education during the pandemic due to lack of digital access and remote learning. According to the International Telecommunications Union's 2021 report, an estimated 37% of the world's populations, or 2.9 billion, do not have internet access. Of the 2.9 billion offline, an estimated 96% live in developing countries. In that sense, there is urgency to reduce digital disparity, particularly for developing nations, and because of that, with the digital technology has becoming urgent and urgent from period to period. We can actually reach more people in remote or secluded areas, people in vulnerable situations. We can help them to improve their life. Each country and each society face different challenges, and for this reason, we must promote a whole society approach and develop local digital ecosystem according to the specific needs of a country and society. We must develop local capacity to ensure the digital transformation bring local added value and would be more sustainable in the long run. Second, digital literacy, especially in the development of smart cities with a view to enhancing the quality of life. The majority of the world population will live in cities. UN Habitat's World Cities Report 2022, for example, reveals that global city population share doubled from 25% in 1950 to about 50% in 2020, and it is projected to slowly increase to 58% over the next 50 years. The statistics reveal that more and more people will inhabit cities in the next decade, thus pressing the importance to develop smart cities. And as we focus our efforts on promoting smarter cities, benefiting from the digital transformation and smartization, it is also critical that we develop digital literacy, digital skills, and digital cultures among their citizens. Third, digital economy. Digital technologies create opportunities for better economy through digital economy. According to Oxford Economics report in 2017, estimates put the size of the digital economy is worth $11.5 trillion globally, or equivalent to 15.5% of the world GDP. It has grown 2.5 times faster than global GDP in the past 15 years. In the health sector, we need to continuously put efforts on harmonizing global health protocol standards through an integrated digital health application recognized within countries. Digital technology in education is also crucial to ensure universal access to education and accelerate learning recovery by increasing connectivity, more accessible and affordable. And most importantly, for providing learning experiences that are more interactive, personalized, and engaging. And fourth, digital safety. This is one of the things that Professor Suhono shed some light in his introduction. Digital transformation can positively impact us, but we cannot ignore the risks of digital technologies. Cybersecurity risks, automation risk, and data privacy risks are commonly identifiable digital threats that need to be managed properly. In this regard, we must work closely together to proactively take measures to mitigate this risk of digital technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak-Bapak and Ibu-Ibu, digital transformation and smartization is inevitable. We have seen benefits to our societies and how it can be used to enhance the quality of life of our people. I trust that our discussion today will produce rich ideas and insights on this subject, especially from our distinguished speakers, and on how to ensure that everyone can benefit from the digital transformation and smartization to improve their quality of life, to ensure that no one is left behind from this blessing of our age. And with that in mind, let me now end my remarks, Bapa, by wishing all of you an inspiring summit and productive discussions during the course of the summit. I thank you. Terima kasih. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Dr. Yayan Ganda Hayat Mulyana, Head of Foreign Policy Strategy Agency, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Development. It's very interesting talking about the digital transformation and the impact for the quality of life. Digital transformation is not just make application, but also considering the infrastructure, digital divide, and also collaboration between experts, between components in the cities, in country, etc., etc. So the role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Republic is how to implement this morning discussion in international collaboration concrete in G20. I think there are a lot of directives from the keynote speech in regard of data management. I think Professor Dennis Disonor will talk about what is the data governance in the latest condition, latest challenge, and etc. And also Professor Obi talk about the data government as a director of APEC digital government and also smart city experience in Japan and also for the APEC. Well, in the next session, we would like to organize the panel discussion. With the first is Professor Dennis Nower. We can read the short bio panelists. Professor Dennis Nower. Professor Dennis Nower is the founder and president of the Global Solution Initiative. Professor Macroeconomic and Sustainability at the Hertie School, Berlin. Last month, I went to Berlin for the G7 in the collaboration G20 and G7, T7, and T20. A director of Socio-Economic Transformation Program at the New Institute, Hamburg. Research Fellow at the Blavatsky School of Oxford. Non-resident Fellow of Brookings Institution and visiting professor at University College London. He was formerly president of the Kiel Institute for the World Economic and as research fellow at the Center for Economic Policy Research London, at ISA, Institute for the Future Work of Bonn, and CE CIFO Munich. He held a BA and Master of Art from the New College, Oxford, and an MA and a PhD from Princeton University. He has published extensively on employment policy, the design of welfare system, and caring economic and monetary and fiscal policy. So the next, Professor Dennis, getting with the data governance, digital governance, etc. I think there are a lot of your contribution. 10 till 15 minutes. Oh, you are.
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce my remarks with an important question. For over a decade now, we have been stressing the importance of reducing the digital divide and providing digital literacy, protecting privacy and cybersecurity, enhancing digital literacy that goes beyond education and training, and digital safety along the lines that you've mentioned. But the extraordinary thing is that over the past decade, the digital divide has grown, cybersecurity threats have grown, the danger of political manipulation on the internet has grown, social manipulation is driving societies into greater conflict, and the protection of privacy remains an issue that is unresolved. And the question that I would like to ask is, why have we made so little progress so far? And I would like to answer this question with a very simple diagnosis, with which you may or may not agree, but I think to put it on the table will provide a good framework for discussion. The diagnosis is that we have all these problems because the digital users do not have control over the data about themselves. We are in the same position as we were before the Industrial Revolution started, where the workers did not have control over their labor services. They could not sell them at terms that they negotiate themselves. Labor markets had not yet been invented. What has happened in the digital space is that the market system has been undermined. And it has been undermined by a very simple process. It's a process whereby we receive digital services for free, apps for free, all sorts of other digital services, or grossly underpriced. And in return, we give up information about ourselves, usually not with informed consent. We click, I agree to the terms and conditions of our app, and virtually no one reads them. And I know this for sure because the estimates of how long it would take to read these apps done by bots, apps plus hyperlinks, ranges somewhere at average reading speed from 2 years to 500 years. So it is quite often impossible to have read those terms and conditions that you are required to agree on in order to gain access to the economic and social worlds that you have. And if we were to able to give users control over the data about themselves so that they would drive the digital system, much in the way that we hope in the offline world consumers drive the production of goods and services when market economies work well, then we would be in a world in which concerns about privacy, concerns about security, and so on would solve themselves, because the consumers in control of their own data would insist that these things be given the priority that they provide. Currently, this is the first time in the history of the world where we are not able to form our social networks along the lines that we ourselves choose. They come prefabricated through our apps. If I want to communicate with you, I have to use Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook. They're all pre-programmed. Now, if you ask vulnerable teenagers who have eating disorders, depression, anxiety, do they really want to communicate through apps that measure and bring them into competition in terms of the number of likes and followers? Most would say no. These apps do so because that is the way of maximizing the attention that the digital service providers receive, and it's a way of maximizing profits. There is a misalignment between the goals of the digital service providers and the goals of the digital users. And therefore, we need the digital users to regain control. And that can be done very simply. It can be done simply by ensuring that all the information that you put up, you have control over, or your representatives can negotiate the terms in which you sell or give away this information. Second-party information about you, like your Facebook profile, that needs to be governed by the same laws as govern doctor-patient relationships. It's not done currently. Official data that you have about yourself, your name, your social security number, your property, and so on, that should receive official authentication every time you choose to use it on the web. And that could be done very simply through the credit card system that we use currently. And then, under those conditions, in addition to a data commons where we can share data only for the purposes that the members of the data commons specify, and the organizers would have a fiduciary duty to ensure that only those purposes are fulfilled, then we could start talking about giving people, protecting the rights of vulnerable digital users, of rights of association to ensure that you are represented by agents who understand the terms and conditions under which you comply. So I believe that there are some important digital reforms that will enable us to achieve the quality of life that we want. And let me just conclude with one remark about quality of life. Currently, we measure quality of life largely through GDP. And the digital age has managed to generate a reasonable amount of GDP because as we have just heard from you, they're growing at 2.5 times the rate at which the non-digital economy is growing. But the resulting wealth is very unequally distributed. And consequently, focusing entirely on GDP, especially very unequally distributed GDP, makes us blind to two important aspects of the digital life that we inhabit. One is social solidarity. The way digital service providers capture your attention is by focusing largely on threats and on putting you into status competition with others. That breaks society apart rather than pulling it together. And the second side from social cohesion is agency. Agency is the empowerment that you feel when you're able to conduct your affairs through your own efforts. By providing all the social and economic networks prefabricated, it disempowers you. And therefore, if we look at a broader measure of well-being than just GDP, to include solidarity and agency and also environmental sustainability, we will have a much better understanding of the progress that the digital economy makes. These statistics are out there. In fact, I lead a team that provides those statistics for over 150 countries year after year, long time series. And therefore, they should be used, and the G20 would be a great place for this information to be accumulated and disseminated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dennis Sesnowers, was very interesting. From the keynote speech talk about the smartization, we need the data and how to manage the data, privacy, and also who take advantage of the data, industry or customer or me or us. Yes, this is good for our discussion in the future. And then the next panelist is Dr. Lily Yan Ing. Yes, this the short bio. Lily Yan Ing is a lead Southeast Asia region at the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia area. Dr. Eng was appointed as a lead advisor to the Minister of Trade of Indonesia from 2017 to 2019 and senior advisor on trade and investment at the President Office of the Republic of Indonesia from 2015 to 2016. Her latest book and report, among others, are Indonesia's G20, New Normal, New Technology, New Financing. Robot and AI was from economic, talk about also robot and AI. New Economic Era, edition Dr. Lily Yan Ing and Janes Grossman. And the third is World Trade Evolution. I think very, very, yes, cross-border from economic to robot and AI. Okay, please, for your time, Dr. Lily.
Thank you, Bapak. My presentations, please. I know it's very hard to have discussions after lunch, so if coffee cannot help you to stay awake, I'm gonna help you to fall asleep. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a great honor for me to be surrounded by and having discussions with the best scholars from G20 countries. Thank you, Bapak, for moderating the sessions. Let me start with the fact that, I have the slide, please, playing? Thank you. My presentation slides is on digital transformations, development for all. Okay, while we are waiting for the slide, let me start with the fact that in 2016, sorry, my presentation slide, please. Digital transformations, development for all. Okay, so this is what's really happening now. I mean, we are facing digital challenges in every single life. I just want to highlight here, one of the main issues that we are facing right now, I totally agree with Professor, that's digital divide and how digital transformations actually make our life in like rising inequality. So it's very important for each and every of us to ensure that digital transformations can ensure development for all. Let me start with you the fact that in 2016, 1% of the top world populations own half of the global populations. Okay, only 1% own half of the global populations. Just over the last 2 years, the 99%, the income of 19% of global populations has been worsening off, while the income of the top 10 richest persons in the world has doubled, of which 8 out of 10 richest persons in the world are technology titans, okay? So each and every of us income has been actually worsened off in just over the last 2 years, not taking into account the current rising inflations, okay? I'm gonna focus more on trade issues. So on behalf of the 9% of the global populations, I really hope our discussions today can contribute to ensure digital transformations for the development for all. Next. Digital transformations is one of the most crucial innovations that changes modern human life. Over the last decade, the annual number of robot installations worldwide has doubled, recording 400,000 in 2021. China, Japan, US, Korea, and Germany accounted for 76% of the total industrial robot worldwide, okay? And just over the last, investments in AI increased by 10 times, just over the last 7 years. It increased from $13 billion in 2015 to $135 billion in 2020. China, India, Canada, the US are among countries with the highest growth of AI hiring. So next, as we know that digital transformations, next please, digital transformations reduces the cost of informations, data management, the way that we are producing and the way we are trading. So it's really changes, it's really leading to the unprecedented changes of the way we are operating and the way we are trading, okay? Last year, this year, digital trade is about 5.5 trillion US dollar. Currently, the Indonesian's economy is 1.3 trillion. So digital trade is about four times of the Indonesian's economy this year. By 2030, digital trade is about 10 trillion US dollar, okay? So just over the last 20 years, digital trade increased about 10 times. Next. So let me highlight here the digital trade. I'm highlighting the last from 2019, 2020 to recent years. I just want to highlight that the pandemic has actually accelerated digital trade and overall digital transformations. So it's changes not only in trade, but also in governments, universities, organizations, and overall businesses, not only the way that currently operating, but the way their future plans. It's really changed the way how we operate, the way we run our organizations, the way the governments runs economies overall, okay? So digital trade increase actually higher from, just stay please, thank you. So digital trade is actually increased from compared to the pre-pandemic levels. Digital trade is from 3.5 to 4.9 and currently 5.5 trillion US dollar. Next. So we know that how digital transformations has actually changes productivity and overall trade. Digital technology advancements actually can work faster and in more accuracy and more precision compared to us human, right? So it's gonna reduce overall productions and operational costs. Industrial robots, automations, AI, and technology advancements also helps markets to work more efficiently. So overall, it's gonna increase human welfare. But we should keep in mind that it comes with challenges. First, I just want to highlight what the previous speakers have already mentioned. First is displacement effects. Capital and technology take over tasks previously performed by labor, and automations increase in the overall value added, okay? This is gonna bring consequences on employment and wages. particularly those with less skilled and less educations. Second, premature deindustrializations in developing countries. Digital transformations can bring huge impact, particularly on developing countries. And one of them can be premature deindustrializations and disappearance of manual and routine jobs. Next. Along with these main challenges of inequality, of displacement effect, and premature deindustrializations and digital trade, previous slide, please. The challenges, yes, stay this slide, please. So there are 4 key main challenges embedded in digital transformations and digital trade. One is privacy, private individual data, and are exposed to exchange of data that has fueled concerns about the use and misuse of data. Second, cybersecurity, the expansions of rapid digitalizations and the use of data by businesses and consumers comes people. Third, competitions. This is really valid, particularly in digital trade. Technological advancements enable firms to produce and operate in large, massive scale across countries, across territories. And these can be barriers, particularly for MSMEs and startups to be in the level playing field. And big tech players, they're gonna tend to use integrations to captive the markets at the cost of consumers. Last, digital divide. It's gonna be like digitalized systems is really varied across individuals, firms, countries, and it really depends on skills, educations, and infrastructures. Just to give you an idea, only 2% of the populations in least